Carrie here. So have you ever come up with an amazing idea and then talked yourself out of doing it because maybe it became too overwhelming or it seemed impossible or just out of reach? Because this is something that I have done before, and for me the thought process goes something like this. So I come up with an idea and I get really excited about it, and I'm like, oh my god, this is an amazing idea, people are gonna love it. And then I go and tell everyone and everyone's like, oh great, another one of Carrie's ideas. And then I'm like, John Lewis might sell this, how is this going to sell? It could be in Selfridges, oh my gosh, it's going to be amazing, this is the best idea ever. And I get really excited about it. And then I start thinking I actually have to do something about this. And so at that moment, my crazy idea mind meets reality. And all of a sudden, I have to think about how am I actually going to make this happen? And all of a sudden, questions like, how am I going to get this manufactured? Oh my gosh, where do you even go? I don't know anyone. How do you know who to trust? Oh my gosh, it's going to cost me a fortune. How am I going to raise the money to make this happen? And all sorts of things you think of. How am I going to get it packaged? Then you start thinking, where shall I sell it? Shall I sell it online first? Shall I get it into stores first? Oh my gosh, do I need to set my website up first? Shall I launch the product and then get my website up? Ooh, which one do I start on? All these questions. And then at the end of the day, you start thinking, actually, will anyone even buy this? And after this whole process, you've managed to talk yourself out of actually giving it a go, from actually getting started, because all of a sudden it's too overwhelming. It's this massive idea and it just seems impossible. It's like being stood at the bottom of a huge mountain thinking, oh my gosh, I'm never going to make it to the top. And I really don't think I'm alone in thinking these kinds of things or having these kinds of thoughts. Because the truth is, trying to turn an idea into reality is scary as hell, because you're going into the unknown. You don't know what's going to happen. You don't know whether it's going to work out, how you're going to figure it all out. You haven't got a clue how to take step 70 when you're on step 1 now, and there are so many unknown factors and it's terrifying. But the thing is that if you want to achieve amazing things and really live a successful life, there comes a point where you have to make the decision, do you go for it? Do you start to turn some of your ideas into a reality, or do you hold back because it is terrifying? And that's really the question. And once you take that leap to decide you're going to go for it, you're going to achieve these amazing things, it's going to be an adventure, there are going to be ups and downs, but you're going to go for it. At that moment you start to take action. That is the moment that you become the person that you want to be, the person that starts to achieve amazing things, the person that's really getting ahead in life and creating an amazing life for themselves. That's when that change happens and you step into that person that you want to be. And it's amazing when that actually starts happening, and all of a sudden you're like, wow, how did I get here, when the other day I felt like I was banging my head against a brick wall? So in this video, I want to help share some amazing insights and advice that will hopefully help you to succeed. I did an interview with Lucy Beer, who is the founder of wellhealed.me, and Lara Morgan, who's the founder of Company Shortcuts. And Lucy came up with the idea to create a shield which goes on the back of shoes, so when you're driving in the car, your shoes don't get scuffed. So it's quite a unique idea. It's kind of an idea that I probably, similar to some other crazy ideas I had, and thought, hang on a second, how do you even go about doing this? How do you even go about creating something like this or manufacturing it? And Lucy was in the same situation. She didn't know how she was going to make it happen. And so she asked Lara Morgan for help. And Lara Morgan is an amazing entrepreneur who has got so much knowledge and experience in actually creating products. So Lara decided she was going to help Lucy to take this idea and turn it into a product that could be sold. And so I interviewed them to find out how they did it, how it went from this idea in Lucy's head to a reality. And so I hope you enjoy this interview. It's a bit longer, so I know you're really busy, so you might not have time to watch the whole thing now, but do try and watch it all because it's so insightful and the advice they share is amazing. And even things like, sometimes when you come up with big ideas and you want it to happen right now, and when it doesn't happen right now or a few weeks pass and you feel like you've made no progress, it can feel so disheartening, especially when you're working on something by yourself and you've got no one really to talk to know whether that's normal or not. And in this video I asked them, how long has it taken you to get to where you are now? And they said it was 16 months. And so it just goes to show that these things take time, and they share so many other insights of how you actually do it. And I hope that it inspires you, and I hope you get some real nuggets of great knowledge from it that you can apply to your business and help you to succeed. So before the interview starts, I want to share a quote with you, and I absolutely love it. It's by Oliver Wendell Holmes, and he said, Many people die with their music still in them. Why is this? Too often it is because they are always getting ready to live, and before they know it, time's run out. Don't let your time run out on your dreams. You know, make the most of it, go for it, take that leap of faith and make it happen, because if Lucy can do it and turn her idea into a reality, then we can all do it. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you do enjoy it, then please share it and leave me a comment. I'd love to know what you think, and I'll see you next time. Hey everyone, I am joined now by the founder of wellheeled.me, which is this, Lucy Beer, and the founder of Company Shortcuts, Lara Morgan. Thank you so much for joining me both. I am excited to talk to you all about how you turned this from an idea into an actual reality. So I think a good place to get started would be to first talk about this product. So this is a product where it's something you slip on the back of your shoe so that when you drive, your heels don't get scuffed.
Exactly right. I mean, damage restriction, basically, a very practical Marmite product. You either love it or you hate it. You can either be bothered to really look after your shoes or you can't. And it isn't just for high heel shoes. It's also for flat ballerina type. So it's very flexible from that point of view.
So where did the whole idea for this come from?
Lucy.
And my mother's love for shoes. Pretty much that's the bottom line. She drives in her shoes all the time and hates how ruined they look and how scuffed they get.
So Lucy was telling me that story, literally driving home from babysitting from me. We live in the same village. And I sort of talked to her about it. And from there, that gem of the sharing of the idea, we've then been meeting on a pretty regular basis every Friday. And over the period of a while, not really quickly, but we've had prototypes, we've taken pictures of them, we've looked at different materials, and together we've made decisions about how we think the product could work and should work. And we've had a relationship which, fortunately, it sounds as if it's the sort of deal breaker, but I have had a factory in China in the past, so we've used an old friend there and gone through prototypes and got to the point where we then sat down and said, well, what color is well heeled? And actually, what name is it? Because it wasn't, we had no idea. So we're trying to create a brand which says what it does on the tin.
So for everyone watching this who doesn't know who you are, let's explain to them your amazing background, because I think it would be amazing if everyone in business could have a Lara Morgan in their life, showing them what to do, but not everyone can. So hopefully in this video we can share some of your wisdom and advice, how you've been helping Lucy to actually create this product, actually from idea, because so many people have these ideas to create products, but then don't even know where to get started. So your background, you used to, obviously you founded Pacific Direct, quite a while ago, and so do you want to explain all about this so that people know?
Don't hate me, Carrie, but 20 years ago I started a business when I was 23, and I'd never run a business before in my life, and I am the sort of, I guess, example for if you can do it my way, anybody can do it in business. And actually I'd like to touch upon the importance of this relationship to me, which is I do believe that there are a lot more giving people, but actually it comes down to that thing about people wanting to ask for help and having the guts to ask for help. I believe that in every village, in every part of our country, there are entrepreneurs living in an environment where there's lots of innovative British people. And if we can get the two to work together, can you imagine what impact we might come up with? So the answer to your question is, I've had the privilege of building a business. I'm very passionate about seeing other people succeed and learn. But the bottom line is that if Lucy had not asked, had not suggested the idea, and then much more valuably, if Lucy hadn't turned up on time and hadn't done the things that together we've agreed are the next phase of the development of this product, I quickly would have lost interest, because she wouldn't be showing the persistence and the tenacity that she actually has shown, and that's what makes a good business person.
So then with this, when she came to you, so you just gave us a really brief, very quick overview of the whole process. But I think for most people, once they come up with an idea, it's this massive idea, and then it kind of becomes so overwhelming and confusing because they're looking at this big picture and not having a clue how to get there. So what really are the first steps that people need to take when they come up with an idea?
So from my perspective, and frankly, boringly, but very importantly, actually, ironically, just before we got on this call, Lucy asked me about another idea, and I said, there's not enough money in it. And actually, that's a really important point. You financially have to set an understanding of, does your idea have legs in terms of, if I can make it for X and I can sell it for Y, will anybody buy it at Y? And therefore, is it worth me making it at X? And can I then do the discovery journey? So I always think numbers first. You know, a lot of people have great ideas, but the truth is that there isn't enough of a marketplace. Then, frankly, it comes down to that creative process. And Lucy, you know, common sense, right? Bottom line, common sense. Bring me lots of damaged shoes. Bring me lots of different fabrics. Let's play. You know, it's a bit like going back to, you're too young, but Valerie Singleton kind of play ideas of the Blue Peter system of actually what can we make here? And practicality, I think, particularly in product, not service. So we're coming from a product perspective. But, you know, applying common sense that not everybody's ankle size is the same. Lucy coming and saying, well, actually, you know, these are other ones that I found on the internet. Lucy doing research about what do we think of those ones, then buying a sample of what you perceive to be sort of competition, but when it's something as innovative and clever as this and it's better and different, you know, asking yourself those questions, I think.
So essentially, like the first time then you got together to meet to talk about this idea, you did the research on the competition or similar stuff out there. You bought those products so you could see them for yourself. And then what did you do in terms of, like, you've got this idea in your head, so do you actually start to draw it out on paper yourselves?
Break everything down, literally, don't you?
Yeah, I mean, literally, I scribbled out the picture of how we thought it might work. And then I wrote down a Word document, which Lucy and I, you know, were trying to describe to a complete stranger, in effect, who's actually, in my case, an old friend. This is what we're trying to achieve. We think this is the kind of material, but we're very open to suggestions, because also an idea, in my experience, never turns out, frankly, like a business plan, never turns out to be the actual idea that you thought it was going to be in the first place. You have to adapt, you have to be agile and flexible. So then Serena, our Chinese contact, came back with various thoughts, and clearly it's not going to be right first time. So it's exciting. You get this package and then you think, oh, and you just persist and you try a different material and you think, okay, well, what color works? And you know, and again, I think a lot of this product development stuff is applying common sense, and all the way along saying, well, and if I do that, how much more will it cost? Keep going back to your numbers. And then Lucy and I went around looking at packaging, and I said, okay, so we now know approximately what size. And frankly, we started with mobile phone cases, because, you know, that's a neat, I mean, if I can show you, I don't know if you can see the well-heeled packaging, but, you know, glossy, snazzy, lots of area for a sales pitch, not very thick so you can hang it up. Trying just to think about, well, how does every other shoe accessories company present their stuff? Lucy has walked the streets, perhaps, you know, learning.
So for people who haven't got a contact with a manufacturer, what would be the steps then to take in terms of finding the right manufacturer, especially if you're going to use an international one where there may be a language barrier or you don't know, like with the trust issue, what would your advice be for taking that step? So once you've kind of got the rough idea of this is what I want to create, a detailed document listing out all the points and features and of what you want to create, and then how do you then go to the manufacturer?
Well, again, first of all, you know, you probably have narrowed down now approximately the kind of material. It may not be fabric, it might be plastic, it might be neoprene, it doesn't matter what the product is, but you're going to have to narrow down approximately what you think it is. There are sites like Alibaba.com who are a trading site introducing Chinese manufacturers to the world. But equally, if you go to the Hong Kong TDC, Hong Kong Trade and Development Council website, they have sectors of manufacturers. So in our case, you know, I sort of felt that it was going to be a sewing factory because it's going to have sewing in it. And you know, well, who makes sewn stuff? And then you can think of sports bags and the durability of that. And then you think, well, are we using a nylon? Yes, we are. Or actually, could it genuinely, it could have been a wetsuit manufacturer because we're using neoprene. So what you might do, and this is where the hard work comes in. I mean, you don't put out one inquiry, particularly if you don't have the gospel of Serena in my case. And, I will admit that I'm lucky that I grew up in Asia. So Lucy has cheated the system a bit, but we're constantly challenging, is this the right thing? Is this the right supply chain? And then, frankly, I'm going to give you my sort of secret tip in business, which is if you don't know, ask. And you asked the question importantly about trust. And the bottom line is that I built a £20 million company by trusting others. And I won't say that it'll be a perfect journey because it hasn't been for me, but I've been let down very, very rarely. So the other thing, and particularly women are good at this, is go with your guts. You know when it's right, don't you?
Yeah.
So, you know when it feels something that you should proceed with, so to speak.
So once you've then kind of got the manufacturers on board and you've got through this testing phase, and like you said, you're going to probably have the first ones come back and they're not going to be what you expected or hoped. So then you've got to try and battle through that. Have you got any advice on how you actually, like Lucy, how did you cope when did you feel like you were at the beginning of this really long path or this long journey, and at those times when things came back and they weren't great, how did you choose to see that? Did you kind of see it as really disheartening, as, oh God, or did you kind of see it as an exciting process?
See that there is a way forward. It's just doing research and testing and trial and error. If you give up, then there's no point carrying on, really.
I think the other thing you did, Lucy stood outside cold car parks, to get feedback on our prototypes. Do you remember those days?
Yeah.
How horrible am I? Please go round all the shopping malls, ask the shoe assistants, what do they think? Do you remember? But great experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you've got to go and ask the customer.
So I guess once you've got the manufacturing, what you've got is the prototype and the product sorted, then the next stage to get out and to go and do that. So obviously then doing the research on the actual product and getting the feedback, did you have to make any adjustments, or was the feedback...
No. We made adjustments. And even now today, when we're going out and speaking to retailers, there's the boot proposition, and we don't have a boot solution. But Lucy came back from a meeting the other day and said they'll buy it if it fits boots. Now we have to develop the boot one, whilst we're developing this one. And that's listening to the customer, Carrie,
So then now what is the next stage after that in terms of then getting it sold, getting it out there? How are you raising awareness or reaching your audience?
Why don't Lucy talk you through the other side, which I think is really interesting. She has been being educated in business along. So what courses have you attended? What can you now do that you couldn't have done before is really important.
It's just learning everything from scratch. Even I do IT courses, everything, because most things is done on the computer. Your research is all going to be done on computer. Your potential customers, everything. You need to read about them, what they do, what they sell, everything.
So she's taught herself she knew how to use Facebook, but she's learning about LinkedIn. She's been off on a course to do Excel training, which was various stages of learning to use a computer better in a business way.
Yeah. And reading books after books. And I hate reading, so that's a challenge.
Now, the hard part, Carrie, which is the pill that you're going to have to swallow, and don't go into developing a product if you can't sell it. I've been teaching the 7 steps of the sale process to Lucy and talking about, so you make your cold call and how are you going to do it and how are you going to get past the barriers and what are you going to say? So we practiced our pitch and we've written it down and we said, so say it back to me and how did that feel? And then we chuck Lucy in the deep end and give her a list of numbers and tell her to ring them. But, if you don't ring them, you're not going to sell a thing.
No.
Yeah.
That's where I'm so proud of her, because I then gave, we from her trolling the shopping malls, it's not difficult to find out all the shoe shops and their shoe head offices, and that takes work. So you do some of the research at night when the children have gone to bed, and then during the day you're ready with all your numbers and you phone the list.
So this is another thing I want to talk about quickly before we get back onto how do you get into big stores, is that you are a mother. So how do you manage that? Because I hear so many people saying that they feel like if they have children that they don't think they could balance actually starting a business, especially coming up with a physical product and creating it and then getting out there and having to sell it. So how do you juggle that?
With difficulty.
Yeah. Having the determination, I think, as well. It's kind of thinking, well, okay, I'm not going to see you for a few hours because I really need to do this, but it's worth it in the end.
So what time do you drop Jack off, and then you're selling by?
Yeah, from 9 till sort of 3. That's kind of, I've got to cram as much in as I can. And then when he goes to bed, that's all my research. That's when I sit for hours on end, just kind of getting everything ready for the next day. It's just juggling.
Do you have any like tips for how you manage your time better? Like, is there anything specifically that you do every single day that helps you?
That would help. I haven't got one. It's on your own, it's harder. You need a lot of support. And
I think one of the things that I try and do is I hope I support in a small way, because I annoy Lucy with texts and stuff during the day to say, how's it going, and emails, and then I say, are we meeting on Friday? So at the end of the week, she's held accountable, Carrie. And actually, if somebody can find somebody that they're accountable to, and that they can share some of the, let's call them hiccups along the way, because you have good days and you have bad days. That's really, that mentoring piece. I mean, clearly that's what I'm doing with Lucy. Really, really important. And you don't need to pay for mentoring. You just need to ask somebody, probably with a little bit of grey hair and a little bit of experience, to give you a few moments of their time.
It's asking for help as well. I think it's really important. If you get stuck on something, you're not going to know if you don't ask. So you've got to ask. Because otherwise you're just hitting your head against a brick wall.
So going back then to the sales process of, like, you've got the product and now you've done the research, you're doing the cold calls. So, but trying to get into the stores. So obviously for you, presumably you want to get into the shoe shops.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? Because a lot of people would think, oh, it's not possible, or they kind of they think that it's too far-fetched for them to be able to get their product into a big, well-known shoe shop. So how do you actually tackle that? How do you go about making that happen?
You just got to be honest, and when you just got to phone people and just, I don't know. That's been the hardest challenge, I think, one of the hardest.
But actually, the other thing we did is, do you remember we went up to Birmingham?
Yeah.
So do you want to share about, because we went to the shoe show.
Yeah.
We're selling a product that is related to shoes. But actually, we came away with 4, and it sounds really weak, but actually what we discovered is we're not selling to shoe shops. We're selling to the shoe accessory providers that then cover all the shops, Carrie.
Okay.
So amongst those 4, they reach most of the independent shoe shops, and certainly all the big boys, as in big shoe brands like Clark's and others. But actually, you then have to make the decision as to, are you going to license somebody with your product? I think critically, we're waiting today for samples so that we can follow up those leads. We've had a laugh designing, a really fun introductory letter that's different from others. Lucy's been out and sourced the right colour of paper and the right envelope, because we need to stand out from the crowd. We've even talked about the detail of, why will they open our package and not somebody else's package, hopefully? And you need to be different and creative. And we've had a laugh doing that.
So how long has the whole process kind of taken? Because I think sometimes when people come up with great ideas and then they kind of want it to happen now, and then when they're like 6 months, 12 months, 18 months down the line, they're thinking, I'm going to give up, I'm getting nowhere, this is hopeless. So how long has it taken?
I think we're probably, 16 months, something like that. On an irregular basis, because I'm also busy with some other stuff and we don't always meet on a Friday. Lucy also has a life to lead of her own. But we're now getting to the point where she's doing the calls, the business opportunities are growing, we're following up the leads. But it will come down to Lucy continuing to do that.
But that's trial and error as well, the same as making it was.
Yeah.
Because we, like you said, with the direction, we've kind of changed from what we originally started with. It's kind of going another. So even then, you're still learning as you're going along.
So when you say it's gone a different direction, what specifically do you mean?
Selling to the accessories providers as opposed to thinking that you're going to sell to shoe shops.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you see there's also the very significant online opportunity because so much stuff is sold online. And if we can convince big shoe companies selling online to sell this accessory or offer it, we don't have any advertising money. But actually, if they can make profit out of selling another item that's about 10 quid, fantastic.
Yeah. So I guess that's another thing with pricing. How did you know how to price it? Was that simply by looking at the competition?
Yeah. So it's always good to start higher than you may end up, but don't start too low because putting up a price is difficult. That's a business learning, okay? So originally we thought we'd get $14.95 because there are other accessories around that, but what we're discovering is that's probably slightly too high. So I think we're at $12.95, and that seems to be sitting very well because it's utterly reusable. It's got a pouch that goes with it. So, you know, when you have your one item for one shoe, your one item for another shoe, and then hopefully the pouch that goes with it, so you sit it in the car, it's got, you can use it on thousands of journeys. So, you know, and again, you've got to think, well, what would someone pay? And what's the average price of a pair of shoes that makes them go, actually, for 12 quid more, I'll buy one. It's not a big deal, right? So you've got to think about, I think, put yourself in the consumer's shoes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And ask them.
Literally.
Yeah.
So what would your top tips, both of you, what would your top tips be for someone else who's come up with an idea that maybe is a kind of, you know, it's a really unique idea, and it's the kind of idea that perhaps someone else might have come up with something that's not the same as this, but a unique idea, and then thought, no, can't do it. Like, too many people do this. So what would your advice be to people who are coming up with ideas and want to kind of really turn it into a reality?
Follow it through, really. Do the research, do the homework to start with, because you're not going to get anywhere if you don't do that first. And just don't give up. Be confident, I suppose.
And also, don't expect it all to go. I mean, the idea that it's going to go swimmingly is ridiculous in business.
And be realistic on your timescale as well. If you think it's going to be 6 months, then it's not.
You know, and I think then other things like, you know, the numbers piece, Carrie, we've got to get people to do the financial outlook on the business. And we're very lucky because, you know, I know Lucy and she's local and I can help with the financial side of the business. And we recognize invention isn't easy. And some products take tooling and they take molding. That's another big decision. But if somebody does their research and then they find that they want to patent it, they must patent it before they publicly go into the market.
Okay.
Or else they cannot get that patent because it's become public knowledge. So I think sharing that with your audience is important. And then the other thing I think is, you know, the practicality of putting yourself in the shoes of the person that could buy it will teach you bag loads, won't it? And we really preach the fact that we've got to put our customer first, and that wellheeled.me is a product that is both for me, and then we're doing it so that if you want to give one to a friend, because it's the sort of thing they'd never buy for themselves. So how would your friends behave? You know, and what would they think of your product? Yeah.
So that is the website, isn't it? Wellheeled.me, so people can go and read more. Lucy, your story's on there, isn't it? So people can find out more about you. I love it. I love how the fact that it's just an idea and now it's a reality and you've made it happen. So thank you so much for sharing that. I think it's really useful and so helpful and inspiring to everyone else who is out there with an idea. Like, I've come up with so many ideas in the past and then just been like, no, can't do this. But I think it is right, just breaking it down, researching, learning as much as possible.
Also, Carrie, never just get one price for anything. I mean, Lucy's just going through the freight learning process and the importing process and without, you know, yes, I'm holding her hand, but she's got to ask the right questions and think about how things happen. And then she's got to ask the freight guys, you know, how would you do this? What's my best way? And then we discuss it, but get 3 quotes. Because you'll always get the best price if you have 3 opportunities to think about.
And then with all of these things, so with the manufacturing, with the creating the packaging, with the distribution, the delivery, with all of these things, have you found the right people? I know that obviously with the manufacturing you already had a contact, but with the rest of it, is it all about researching online to find the best supplier or provider?
just online, it's who you know as well, and asking around and not being scared to ask people if they know anybody, or just be cheeky with, do you know, can you help?
I mean, I'm clearly, because I'm a massive supporter of Lucy, and, you'd be amazed how serendipity works, which sounds barking mad for sort of inverted commas a business person, but truthfully, the harder you work at anything, the more luck that happens to you. I walked into a room the other day, I was talking about Lucy, and the guy said, "That's a really interesting story, I can help you there, let me introduce you to Clark's shoes." Right? How cool is that?
Wow.
So we've been lucky too.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you so much.
I hope Clark's will take it. Thank you,
Yes,
Carrie.
Thank you so much. That's so inspiring. I know it will help so many people, so thank you.